All right, so CBS News Chief White House correspondent Major Garret is with me now. So, Major, let us start with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. And why does the Trump's legal team believe that Mueller's team is worth investigating, that there may be conflicts of interest? What are they looking for?
So let's be careful with this, Anne-Marie, because other news outlets have reported. I have not been able to confirm that there is within the Trump legal team an effort to dig up dirt on either Robert Mueller or those he has hired to be his investigative attorneys. What I have confirmed through the Trump legal team is that it does want to push back if, in fact, Mueller and his team of investigators start digging into Trump family finances or the president's long-running finances when he was a business person, not a politician or president of the United States. And that it is no secret on the public relations front, those who are allied with the president and this emerging legal team have questioned Robert Mueller's own conflict of interest, saying, as the president told the New York Times this week, hey, wait a minute, he was interviewing for the job of FBI director, and the very next day he was named special counsel. That's one potential conflict. And other allies of the president have raised questions about those Robert Mueller, as the special counsel, has hired as either investigators or attorneys, some of whom have publicly disclosed financial contributions to prominent Democrats, something that allies of President Trump, have said raises, at least in their mind, some questions about these attorneys working on behalf of the special counsel and their objectivity in any matter relating to the president or the president's associates. So this is the general conversation that in public allies of the president have raised about Robert Mueller, and it is certainly true that the legal team is investigating or looking into any and all potential conflicts of interest. But I want to be careful to say I have not confirmed that they're doing like heavyweight opposition research,
right,
like the Bill Clinton legal team did back in the highly publicized days and frantic politics of the Monica Lewinsky escapade.
Yeah,
so I want to sort of put those in two different categories, at least until I confirm them myself.
Yeah, it's very good to clarify that. You know, there's, I suppose, different ways you could interpret this reporting. You could say, listen, this is a distraction because perhaps you know, the Trump team is looking to hide something, or this is just par for the course. This is how business is done. Which one is it, if it is true that they are looking into the background of some of the people on Mueller's team?
So that is something that every legal team does. It sizes up whoever is opposing it in the court of law and in the court of public opinion. But what it really matters and what it comes down to is this. Is the legal team trying to build a case of conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest for the court of public opinion, or for one client and one client only, the President of the United States, who has the singular power to fire the special counsel if he believes and he persuades his Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who is the one who would be so empowered to act on behalf of the president, to fire the special counsel because of these perceived conflicts of interest. If that's where this is heading, it's very important indeed. We don't know that. And no one I've talked to on the Trump legal team is discussing it in that context. But already Senate Democrats have said, wait a minute, we're seeing obstruction of justice in real time, in sort of slow motion, when the president talks about red lines and his legal team confirms that they want to keep the special counsel out of the president's or his family's financial dealings, because they say that's not part of the mandate of the special counsel's office. Are you seeing efforts by the president in public interviews with the New York Times or from his legal team to sort of draw a fence around what the special counsel can and cannot look into? Does that constitute obstruction of justice, or is it just saying, look, you were hired to look at Russia. Russia's one thing. My family finances are completely different. That's not only a legal matter, but it is quite definitely and most conspicuously a political matter, which Congress has already begun to talk about.
Well, you pointed out in your story just how broad Mueller's mandate is, and you used that quote, any matter that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. So it could be obstruction, it could be investments, it could be just about anything. But let's talk a little bit about where the investigation seems to be going now. Mueller has expanded the investigation into Paul Manafort's overseas businesses, and now the Senate Judiciary Committee may issue subpoenas for Manafort and Donald Trump Jr. to testify. What can you tell us about all this?
Well, let's take that in reverse order. You just talked about the Senate Judiciary Committee. Both Charles Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, and Dianne Feinstein, the California Democrat, at the top of that committee have made it clear. Donald Trump Jr. is invited to testify. So is Paul Manafort. They are invited. They have not yet been subpoenaed. But if they do not willingly comply with that invitation, and trust me, when a Senate committee invites you, it's inviting you with the threat of a subpoena right behind that invitation. So yes, it sounds friendly, but it's actually not. If you don't comply, there will be a subpoena and you will be compelled to appear before that committee. And if you don't, you run the risk of legal jeopardy, at least legal consequences with that Senate committee. So that's where things stand right now. It is our understanding from legal representatives for Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort that they are willing to cooperate with the Judiciary Committee. But until they show up and until everything is locked down and those questions are asked and answered, it's still somewhat of a live ball. So we just have to stay tuned on that.
I was also asking you about Paul Manafort's overseas businesses, because, I mean, this investigation is like an octopus. The tentacles go in all different directions. So Mueller wants to look into that as well.
Right. So let's also, our audience may get tired of hearing me say we need to be careful on this and just stay within the boundaries, because it's really important. One of the things the special counsel's office is trying to determine, and asking questions doesn't mean it's reached a conclusion. But one of the questions writ large about this whole Russia story is, okay, if there was collusion, was there any motivation behind it that had any financial basis? Was there any previous set of business arrangements, deals, debts that could in any way, shape, or form contribute to or explain potential collusion? It's a question to be asked. It is something worth looking into from the special counsel's point of view. It doesn't mean it's been determined. It doesn't mean it's been proven. It doesn't mean it's chargeable. It is at this stage merely a question. And one of the things the special counsel's office is looking into is, how is it that Paul Manafort came in, had this central role in the Trump campaign, and then was ushered out, and in his previous life had lots of business deals in Ukraine with Russians, had bank accounts in Cyprus, had debts that may or may not have been relevant to his actions on behalf of the Trump campaign. Were there any strings there, or are there any strings there worth pulling to look to see if there were financial obligations, debts, relationships that might in some larger way explain some of this connective tissue with politics, Russia, and the 2016 election? It is a vast and complex set of questions. And to my knowledge, none of those questions have been definitively answered, but they are being asked. And it's always important to remind ourselves, just because questions are being asked doesn't mean the answers will lead to a charge, a conviction, or anything of the kind. We're at the very early stages of all this, but lots of very important questions are being asked, and significantly, Anne-Marie, lots of people who might be in a position to publicly answer them are hiding behind attorneys who are not saying very much.
Major Garret, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you about something that's a whole lot simpler than this Mueller investigation. Overnight, we learned about a travel ban for Americans who want to be tourists in North Korea. Can you tell us anything more about that?
So here's what we know. This administration will ban all American tourism to North Korea starting 30 days after July 27th. And there is not a great deal of tourism from the United States to North Korea for lots of obvious reasons. But there are groups that do organize this, and they will be informed. And the State Department, I'm told by senior administration officials here at the White House, will release today all of the underlying details. But this is an outgrowth of the tragic story of the American student Otto Warmbier, who was arrested, held in North Korea, arrested on trumped-up charges of tearing down a propaganda poster, all that sort of stuff, returned back to the United States under great medical duress in a coma, died a few days later. A tragic turn of events, one this administration has placed squarely at the feet of the regime in Pyongyang. And as a result, the Trump administration is saying no more tourism. We're just not doing this. We're not putting American lives at risk, and it's not worth having Americans be there, be subject to possible harassment and/or arrest and lengthy detention. So, yeah, that's the end of it. And more details forthcoming from the State Department later today.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of people changing their travel plans, but there are certainly some. Major Garret, thank you so much.
Sure.